If you're serious about building wealth, it's important to know that most of the money advice out there is either very misleading or can just be plain wrong, and it can be very harmful to your financial future if it's followed. And this bad advice can come from anywhere really, whether it's social media or even well-meaning family, friends, and work colleagues. So today I want to share with you the absolute worst pieces of personal finance advice that I hear going around all the time and what you should be doing instead. The first one is that rent money is dead money. So this is the idea that paying rent is just a total waste of money because you're paying for accommodation which you don't own. So you basically get no benefit from it other than the shelter it provides. And this is why you often hear people say condescending things to renters like, I don't know why you don't just pay off your own mortgage instead of somebody else's. You know, because at least that way your money's actually paying for an asset which you own and which you can expect to increase in value for you over time. This annoys me so much because it's such an oversimplification. The only time rent money is actually dead money is when you're not doing anything productive with the rest of your money. It's where your reason for renting is not part of a bigger plan to build wealth. So if this doesn't apply to you, then you're all good. So for example, renting in locations where you want to live but you can't afford to buy, while at the same time buying investment properties in places that you can afford and where you'll also get a good return on investment, is an amazing wealth building strategy. This is known as rent vesting and is often much more effective as a strategy for building wealth than buying your own home first, even though that involves you paying rent. This is because if you do it properly, rent vesting has less of a strain on your cash flow because renting is generally cheaper than paying a mortgage on a home, and because an investment property gets tax benefits and rental income which help you pay the mortgage on the investment property. This stronger cash flow then allows you to borrow more money to buy more investment properties to then build your wealth faster. I do this myself and I've got to say it works really well for me. There are also other reasons people rent, which doesn't make rent money dead money. Most people can't afford to just go and buy a home straight off the bat, so they need to rent for a while they save up for a deposit. Or some other people might just need to move around a lot for a job which pays them an awesome income, so it makes sense for them to have the flexibility of renting. So if you're renting, you don't necessarily need to feel like you're wasting your money and you're not going anywhere financially. It all depends on your circumstances. The second piece of the worst money advice I hear going around is that all debt is bad. We're often told that all debt is bad and that it should be avoided at all costs, and that if you do manage to find yourself with some level of debt, then you need to pay it off as quickly as possible. But the reality is that debt is neither good nor bad in and of itself. It's just a tool, and the way we use it is what makes it good or bad. For example, if we borrow money at high interest rates using credit cards or personal loans to purchase things that lose value like cars, luxury items, and consumer goods, this is bad debt, which should be avoided altogether or paid as soon as possible if you have it. So you should avoid bad debt and instead take on debt to purchase things that increase in value over time and therefore make you wealthier, such as getting a bank loan to purchase an investment property. This is an example of good debt. And if I can take you a step further, once that investment property increases in value, it's actually possible to take out the equity in that property in the form of a loan, which you can then use to pay for the deposit and the acquisition costs on your next investment property. This basically means that you're using debt to buy a property with none of your own money down. And if this strategy is rinsed and repeated, you can build a multi-million-dollar property portfolio quite quickly. Smart investors who use this strategy often use interest-only loans so that they're not having to pay down the principal as well as the interest on the loan. This protects their cash flow so that they can borrow more money to buy more investment properties. So even though they will be paying a lot more interest on their debt in the long run because they're not paying down the debt straight away, they will have a much bigger net worth in the long term than if they had just focused on paying down the debt on one property as quickly as possible through principal and interest repayments. I'll go into this in more detail in other videos, but for now, I should just caveat all of this by saying that you of course still need to be very careful in taking on any debt. You should only take on sensible and sustainable levels of debt when you're confident that you're in the right financial situation to do so, such as like having a reliable job and an emergency fund in place in case something happens. So always avoid bad debt and always look for ways in which you can use good debt sensibly to acquire assets which appreciate in value for you. If you do this well and sustainably, the odds are that you're going to be very wealthy one day. If you're getting anything out of the video, guys, please remember to like and subscribe. It really does help out the channel. Thanks for your support. The third piece of terrible money advice I hear is to focus solely on saving. Now, I'm not knocking saving at all here. It is extremely important to be a good saver, and in my opinion, it is the first foundation to building wealth. However, some people get carried away with it and they end up just saving for saving's sake. You know, they already have a big fat emergency fund and they have savings that they can invest, but they become attached to their bank balance and they have to see it keep going up over time all the time. So their savings just sit there. But the issue with this is that you can't save your way to financial freedom and retirement because inflation just eats away at your money so that over time it has less and less purchasing power. Instead, you need to hedge against inflation by investing your money in assets that appreciate in value. Not only that, but for most people, asset prices like property often increase at a faster rate than they're able to save their money. So their ability to afford a property slips further and further away with more time that passes if they're putting off investing because of an unproductive obsession with saving. Also, there's a limit to how much money you can save, so you need to focus on ways in which you can increase your income. Your ability to increase your income is basically limitless, so this needs to be a major focus. As Dave Ramsey always says, your income is your greatest wealth building tool. So to summarize, saving is a great thing and you should always have a habit of saving a good portion of your income. I think try to go for at least 20%. But you also need to find ways to grow your income over time, and you need to consistently invest a good chunk of the money you're saving into appreciating assets. If you do this over the years, you're going to do very well for yourself. The fourth piece of the worst money advice I hear is that money doesn't grow on trees. Now, I'm of course talking metaphorically here, but this is basically the idea that money is really hard to come by, and that if you want to earn more, you've got to go out and you've got to work harder and harder. But this is a scarcity mindset that you have to trade your time for money. And in my opinion, this is absolutely wrong, and anyone who has this mindset will never achieve true financial freedom. Because remember, you can't be financially free if you're continuing to trade your time for money. The reality is that money does grow on trees. Metaphorically, money makes more money and it compounds into crazy numbers. You might need to trade your time for money at the start, like almost everyone does, by going to work to build up your savings and start investing in something. But once you've accumulated a solid foundation of wealth, your net worth will begin to snowball without you making any more effort, up until a point where you don't have to trade your time for money at all. This is because the value of the assets you've invested in over time have increased substantially, and they're producing you a passive income which you can use to fund your own lifestyle. This is a really powerful concept. I heard or read something one time that put it this way: the money you passively earn from your investments increasing in value over the decades, while you sleep and go about your life, will far outweigh the money you have actively earned and saved from getting up early, getting on the train, and toiling away at work for all those years. Take a moment to really think about that. Once you've built a decent sized nest egg, it's very easy to make a lot more money. For example, if you're able to invest sensibly and consistently over the years and you build up a nest egg of $2 million, even a modest 5% average annual return on that will give you 100 grand a year without you having to do a thing. And if you have a really good year where your nest egg increases by say 20%, then you've just made yourself $400,000. This really does highlight what a crappy return most people get on their time from working really hard in their job for an annual salary. So there you go. That's some of the worst money advice that people get fed all the time, and which you can now spot when you hear it. And if you found this video useful, guys, and you're interested in learning more about other money traps that people fall into, you'll love this video over here somewhere about the biggest money habits that will keep you poor. Please also remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel. It really does make a difference. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Have a great day, and bye-bye.